Hello everyone. Quick sound check. If you could drop a message in the chat and just let us know that you can hear us both, that'd be great.
Does that mean I need to say something?
Yeah.
All right.
There's a slight delay, so we might not see something for a little while yet.
It looks like the last person to fill it in only voted for one session.
Can you both? Excellent. Thanks, Pimp D Jack. Jess, Chrissy, Even IT. Hello all. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get started in
Jess
5.
is in twice. Or have you just sent 2 messages, Jess? I'm seeing two pictures of Jess. Maybe she's just chatting a lot.
Yeah, she just dropped a message. Yeah. We'll get
Thanks, Rob,
started
for saying
5.
something. Very good.
And just get everything ready. I guess it's just that obligatory sort of heads up. I really hope I don't have packet loss again. And I really hope OBS doesn't bomb out on me. But so far so good. I've only had one slight.
Oh right, you're running OBS, are you?
That's right. Yeah. So screen share with me and you over Zoom and punching it to YouTube with OBS. And there was this one occasion where Matisse Jessen did like a really good session, and yeah, Virgin Media, my ISP, just they weren't my friend that day. They really ruined the session. So fingers crossed today will be good. Fingers crossed. Hope everyone's got their fingers crossed.
Excellent. So it's only the hecklers that are going to spoil the evening. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly that.
Excellent. So how did you come across OBS, and how have you learned how to set it all up?
How did I come across it? There was this. Brett Miller shared me a link that was like this. It's on the PowerShell Twitch streamers GitHub repo or something, and within there's several GitHub links. Sorry, just several blog links. And Chrissy the Mayor had like several on her streaming setup on like,
right.
This is how you use OBS. These are the sort of things that go well when you stream to things like Twitch. I don't know, maybe after like a dozen or so attempts to Twitch, I just got the hang of it. I'll drop the links to the ones I used in the chat now, so everyone can pick them up. But yeah, it was particularly Chrissy's posts were particularly helpful for me.
Nice.
Helpful. But I mean, if you're keen to get going with it, like I'd be well up for, I don't know, helping in any way.
What's that with OBS?
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Okay then.
But right now,
yeah, come on then. Let's crack on. Forget this. No, I don't know whether you've done any sort of investigating or anything, but I am one of the organisers of SQL Bits, and we've just switched from an in-person event to online. And we're asking a lot of the speakers to do pre-recorded sessions so that they can be online during the broadcast to handle any questions that come up about their session.
Absolutely.
And it was quite clear after we sent out the first email that a lot of people don't know it or know of it or have any kind of experience of setting up something like that. So yeah, I'm just curious to know how you found it, how you picked it up, and what's the quickest route in. You know, what's the big barriers to entry that we might need to help people through.
Yeah, the links I dropped in the one link actually I dropped in the chat. It's like a portal to several other links. They kind of focus on streaming to Twitch, not so much offline recording. In fact, offline recording is probably significantly easier than worrying about streaming, because if you're streaming, you have to be concerned about what service you're streaming to, whether you want to use any add-ons, things like bitrate. Whereas if you're just doing it locally, you know, it is more or less simple as sorting out some collections and sorting out a collection of sources with scenes and hitting start recording. But I don't know, in terms of time it took me to learn it, I have this habit of taking on something new and perceiving it as a big dark cloud, and it takes me forever to often embrace something new. So I often find the first couple of hours of something. Yeah, exactly like PowerShell. I often find the first couple of hours of something like really, I overcomplicate things, in my head. But I don't know. They could always record with something else, I guess, with that event you had in mind. Doesn't necessarily have to be OBS, I guess. I'm not sure.
We recommended it as a free
that's true. It's free,
way to get in. Obviously, if we recommended something like Camtasia or anything else that has a $700 or $800 license fee, then we would be roasted alive for suggesting people have to pay that in order to get going. So we recommended something that was free, and yeah. But no, it'd be really useful actually if you're up for doing a quick 101 session or something like that. Maybe if we get a group of speakers who are interested together, we could have a kind of like a private
100%.
Zoom. Yeah,
100%.
Right, then.
I'll be
I'll
very
bear that
happy
in mind.
that. Yeah.
Sweet.
So I don't know if you're ready now. I'll kickstart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I guess it's just the normal. Thanks everyone for joining. My name's Adam Cook. This is PowerShell Southampton. Today we've got Jonathan Allen. He's going to hosting a PowerShell medley session, but I won't spoil it too much. I'll let him explain what that's going to be. Well, yeah, that's it actually. Yeah, Jonathan, take it away.
Thank you very much. Evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Yeah, the PowerShell medley. It's an ever-growing, ever-changing list of things that I've encountered whilst using PowerShell with customers, with my own activities, things I've had to go and discover myself, things I've seen people struggling with. So I hope a little light bulb moment at one time or another through the evening. Before this evening, oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, don't forget to share your screen in OBS, and then I can.
Am I not sharing?
OBS, sorry, in Zoom, and then I'll switch scene to Zoom.
Oh, right, okay. So yeah, tech fail. I've clicked on screen 3 in Zoom, but I haven't clicked the share button to then share it. Right, okay, here we go.
That's better.
How's that?
That is better. I'm just going to switch scene now. There we go. So you should be coming up on the stream. Perfect.
Right then. So before this evening, Adam shared a link to go and vote for the medley item title. We've had some votes in. Thank you very much to everybody who voted. Hopefully you're going to get to see what you wanted to see. Other people are going to witness what you chose. So in descending order of votes, we've got interest in the ForEach in version 7 of PowerShell. So we're going to take a quick look at that. Then we're going to look at how to keep credentials, passwords and usernames safe. This is a real random one. I don't think I've seen so much interest in using binary and or before. So
I'm definitely interested.
Right, okay then, no problem. So we're going to take a look at that. You're one of the 8 here, I'm assuming, Adam.
Absolutely.
Then looking at how to secure files. If you've got files on a file share, to make sure that no one's editing them, then you're confident that they're the same file that you left there a while ago, and so on and so forth. Okay, now this needs to be an interactive session, so I'm assuming the actual audio isn't open, but I've got the live chat open on another screen here.
Correct.
If you want to drop a question in there, go for it. Hopefully I'll see it and I'll tackle it there and then. If I haven't seen it and you want me to answer the question, then can people raise their hand in Zoom and you can flag it up, Adam? What's the best way of them getting our attention?
So there's no one else in the Zoom other than me and you. They just pick up on the chat.
Right.
Perhaps
okay,
you focus on delivery, and if anything comes up in the chat, I'll interrupt you. Yeah, how's that?
All right. So you voted under duress, did you, Rob? Okay. So yeah, we're going to work our way through here. I honestly don't know how long we're going to go on. If we do all of these and there's still an appetite for more, then there's a new one that I added in that no one managed to vote for, which is looking at breaking in loops in PowerShell. And then there's the ones that have got 4 votes and so on and so on and so on. We can do all 31 of these if people are still awake. So if the rules of engagement are all clear to everybody and there aren't any questions right now, we'll start off with looking at ForEach in the new PowerShell version 7. Now, normally I forget to start a new version 7 console, but I was playing yesterday, and what we can actually do is use a code space from GitHub, which has handily not refreshed for me. So this is Visual Studio Code in a browser when it loads. Of course, while I'm looking at this, I can't see any questions. I'm heckle free at the moment while we stay on this. So here I was hoping to shout the benefits of code spaces, and it's doing this to me.
So code spaces, just to clarify, is basically Visual Studio Code in a browser.
It is. It is exactly that. This interface, we've got the folder explorer on the left-hand side, which is looking into my repo, and I've got Visual Studio Code connected to my repo, so we can see all of the files here. Awesome. We've got the search facility, we've got the Git source control, we've got extensions that we can add in, so on and so on and so on, and we even get a PowerShell terminal down the bottom here. Eventually, this is going to start up.
Do things like extensions persist?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, they persist entirely. Rob may know more about this because he's probably been in on the beta ahead of me.
Well, Rob's just said you've got Cornish internet.
I do. Well, very nearly. I've got Devonshire internet at the moment, but hopefully within 6 weeks it's going to be Cornish internet. Yeah. So what we need to do is check that we're in the right version of PowerShell. So we need version 7. So if I press F8 on line 4 up here in the editor, it's exactly the same as Visual Studio. That code gets submitted into your integrated session, and we can see that I'm running PowerShell version 7 actually on Linux. And I've discovered that some of my code doesn't run on Linux, so we're only going to see this this example run through on CodeSpace. So here we are, 1 to 100 using the integer.
Could you zoom in a bit? Is that all right?
Object. Oh, does Control and plus.
That's good.
That. So even that works in the browser. 1 to 100 is going to give us 100 items down through the pipeline. For each one of those, we're going to carry out the process script block, and we're going to set up an arbitrary sleep for 2 seconds, and then we're going to write back the number that we received. Okay, so this is going to be our standard for each operation that we would see nowadays in any PowerShell session. And as we can see, these numbers are coming through one after another with a 2-second gap, and we're not going to wait for this to reach 100. Okay, this is clearly going to take 200 seconds to run through. Now, in version 7, instead of having the process script block, we can actually use a parallel script block. And when we run that, again with F8, we can see that we get 5 executed at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now notice, let's hit Control C to stop that again. These are coming out of order. So these are in batches of 5. So 11 through 15 got executed as a batch. 13 happened to run faster ever so slightly. 14 ran ever so slightly faster than 13. So it was returned to us out of sequence. So it's something to bear in mind if you do start using version 7 and you use ForEach with parallel, that you are not necessarily guaranteed to maintain the order of processing. They are not thread safe in terms of what you hand out and what you get back is going to be in the same order. But we are clearly going much faster. This 1 to 100 is going to be done in chunks of 5. So this whole thing is going to take 40 seconds instead of 200. Now, when we use the parallel parameter, we can also use throttle limit. So if we use throttle limit of 50 and we run with that, we actually get, after 2 seconds, the first 50 given to us, and then the second 50 are run as a second batch. So in 4 seconds, we've actually run 1 to 100. There are some things that are very good to be put through a parallel for each, and there are some things where you won't see an improvement. So it's a case of try it and see if it's better. Things that are very trivial, like listing things from your hard drive or searching for stuff, it's probably not going to give you a big performance improvement, because there is an overhead in setting up the environment to manage all of these threads that are being spun up, depending on what your throttle limit is. Like I say, the default is 5. Maybe you can turn it up to 10 or 20, and that gives you a good improvement. Maybe you channel it down to 3 or 2, and that gives you an improvement. Again, something to look at, but it's very simple to invoke. As soon as you're on version 7, use parallel instead of process for your script block name. And then if you need to change away from the default of 5, use the throttle limit parameter. So we'll put that one away. Jump back into here. And bigger, please. Was that big enough, Rob? I'm going to assume he's going to say yes in a minute. So number 27, keeping credentials safe. Back up to the top. This is what I would term as a code smell. If you see anything that is asking for a password in script that you come across and you're asked to maintain, and it's not using any sort of secure string, then essentially this password, it might be saved out to your file system. It is definitely stored in memory as an open string. So whatever someone returns as the response to this read host request is going to get stored in here. It's going to be accessible in memory to any processes that can get to it. And of course, you can retrieve it here. So if I type this in, I get asked what my password is. So I type in password because that's what my password is. And line 9, all day long. Oops, apologies for my prompt, including some Git content. It's just there as an open thing. So when we look at that, we're going to see that this is just a system string. PowerShell has chosen to give us a system.string data type for our variable. Read host comes with a parameter which is as secure string, and that allows us to at least retrieve a password from user input. Again, I type in my password there, and if I ask for that variable back, it's a secure string. PowerShell is saying, no, I'm not going to give you that. This was given to me as a secret. I'm going to keep it as a secret. If we ask for the full name of that, we actually get told that it is a secure string data type. PowerShell has a built-in command called convert from secure string. What does that do? Well, it gives us a readable string. It's not the actual password that we have saved. It's not the secret, but it is a readable value. So we could do comparison on this, or we could make sure that it's the value we're expecting, I guess, but kind of useless. A far better way of entering user credentials is actually to use the get credential built-in function. And with that, you get asked 2 questions. What's the username? Jonathan. And it says, okay, what's the password for Jonathan? So password. And again, when you interrogate this variable, we get cred.username. That's an open string. We get the username back, so we can identify which user this relates to, this cred variable, who is it for. But when we ask for the password, again, it's a secure string. We could do convert from secure string, and we would see the same kind of value stored in there. Now, potentially, you're in a scenario where you need to enter a username and password a lot in your day-to-day work. Ideally, that's going to be in a password manager that lets you access it very quickly and very easily. But in some circumstances, that's over on a different computer, or it's in a different network, and it becomes difficult and complex to access it. What you can do is take this credential object and use the export CLI XML PowerShell function to save this as a file on your local storage. Now, if we take cred, we pass it through export CLI XML, and we run that, we get success. If I then go to this location, Oh, I could have predicted that, couldn't I?
Your prompt is all kinds of happening, isn't it? You got a lot of stuff in your prompt.
Yeah, I might actually turn that off if we take a break in a minute.
Oh, you're fine. No, don't worry.
Here we go. So in there, if I sort that by date modified. In the creds folder, in my C users Jonathan/creds, we can see that the Jonathan.cred has just been created. If I open that file, if I double click on that, it's an XML file. We can see the username is Jonathan, and the password has been turned into this secure string. So it's stored unreadable. It's not a value that we can take apart. There is now, this is where I've got to confess a limit of my knowledge, and someone on the session might actually be able to jump in and give me some more information on this. As far as I understand it, this is as secure as a .NET secure string data type is. So if there is a vulnerability in that, then that vulnerability exists here. The password is not stored in memory. This is an encrypted value. But when we import this file back into a PowerShell session, we can continue to use it as a credential to run as for an application or whatever we chose to do. So if we run get content on that cred file, then we get exactly the same XML content come back to us. Let me just.
And then presumably, if we wanted the PS credential object back, we could import CLI XML and then have access.
Exactly that. I'm just trying to open up an MMC add in here a minute, and not getting what I want.
See, Rob's chimed in on something you said. He said password is on disk, can be accessed by anyone who can create a session as that user. And I think that's exactly the key. So when you generate these secure strings, only the user that generated them in that
and
context
it's only good on this computer. Okay,
exactly,
so the hashing of the password involves the current session, the current Windows user, and the current computer.
Perfect.
So I can't take this .cred file and take it to any other computer, and no one can take my cred file and use it here or anywhere else.
Even if you were the same user, even as a domain user on another machine, it wouldn't work, right?
No, I can't move this anywhere else and use it, and no one can take it away from this computer or even use it on this computer. If they log in as me, sure, it would be open because my SID would be used to decrypt the file. So that brings a certain amount of convenience that in my files I can have passwords that are specific to my authority.
Gotcha.
Now, sorry for the pause, but I've got another screen here that's not loading the add-in that I want. Is that it? Drum roll, please. No, I don't want to flipping Bing search. What the hell?
Could be worse. Could be Ask Jeeves.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask Google if Ask Jeeves is still a thing. Just ask.com, yeah. Yeah, Rob said it's encrypted with SID and machine ID.
Yeah.
And AutoCarrot is also beating him up today.
Yeah, I'm being hamstrung by, oh no, I don't have a sign in for this. My apologies, everybody.
You're all right, don't worry.
That's the one we wanted. Local users and groups. So users. We'll come back to that in a second. So if I create a new local user, which is Sutton demo with a password of password, actually Windows barfs and says, you're an idiot. Don't give me password. We need a secure string, right? So what we can do, we can take cred username and pass that into the name parameter of new local user. And we can actually take the password from $cred and pass that in for our password. And then we can say, okay, demo account for user group session. So let's run line 34. Nope. What's wrong there? Oh, that's a fair shout. Haven't I started code with, oh God. Crash. Control and shift and the icon.
Yeah, if you hit Control and Shift and any shortcut, that's a way to run it as administrator, as opposed.
Awesome.
Yeah, but you got there. Ignore me.
We're here. We're here. So let's take. That one. F8 on there. Did that right? Of course not, because code's still loading. I've managed to get something on my monitor that means that if I don't move to the right fast enough, my cursor stays on the edge of the screen.
Huh.
If I go fast, it slides across to the other monitor. But if I'm just kind of teetering on the brink, it won't actually go off the screen, which is kind of useful if I want something on this screen. But if I'm just dithering about where to go on the other one, I end up not getting there. A little bit of pesto to make sure I'm ready to do a demo. One of these ought to be, are you running in administrator?
Cool, that's commitment, that is, to have unit tests for pairing to demo. That's cool.
It's just checking that my SQL services are running. Depending on, I've got the same profile, or I used to have the same profile when I worked for a different company, on my home laptop and on my work laptop. So it actually senses what my machine name is and then tests for other things depending on where I am. Right, okay, so here we go. Back on track, F8, run line 34. User. Nope. Yes, I do need to get cred, right, okay. Here we go. So into there already exists. Of course it does, because that should be. There we go. Right, so back across to here. If we refresh this, we can see that we've got the Sutton demo created demo account for user group session. And if I wanted to log in, it would be using the password that I had set up as the as it happens, the password for $cred, which means that I can now run applications as this. Okay, so if I set up my app to be Management Studio, and then set up grid view to show me all of the .cred files that I've got. If I use slot and demo, I can then read that file in, and then if I start my app using start process and I'm using run as $cred, which is the wrong one because it should be chosen cred. I'm an idiot. This changes so often. I need to keep track of it more. Directory name's invalid.
It's got an issue with my app for some reason, I think. Parameter my app.
Right.
Not the parameter, the variable, sorry. I'll shut up.
I've got a feeling it's because this has got a space in it. Anyway, this is exactly what you need to do. We just need to work on this my app going through, and I'm not going to debug it in front of everybody right now. But essentially, if we start that, we can use run as, and then the application will actually start as that chosen user. So this can be very easily folded into oh, Jess is saying something to do with the path length.
Yeah, I just saw that in the chat. Yeah. Go to the root of C, give that a go. I mean, before Windows 10, the limitation was 255 characters. I think you're well under that. Yeah, but Jess suggested change directed to the root of C and retry. She said to hit the same issue the other day. She says not the path of the app, but the path of where you're running the code, so your current working directory at the time, perhaps. No, it doesn't seem to be it. Okay.
Yep, so this is root of C.
That's interesting.
I should have chosen something without spaces in it, but
I am interested that there's single quote and double quote wrapped around the string. Don't know if that's a factor or not.
I just added that in so that it was actually passed in as a single string. What we could do is, what Rob is suggesting is actually using just SSMS, because that that's a bit more hopeful. We didn't get an error.
That suggests it's in the path variable, right? I think.
Yeah. The trouble is with Management Studio, it takes about 25 minutes to start up. There we go.
So this launches Management Studio as another user, right?
Yes, this is going to run as the credentials
user.
from whatever we've read in. Okay, so import CLI with a grid view lets people choose which credential they want to use. Or you could do it through auto selection on your parameter values, and then you say, yeah, okay, I want Management Studio, I want to be this user. So you can elevate your credentials to a privileged user, or perhaps if you're working cross-domain, you can say, actually, can I take the credentials for domain number 3 because I want to get to a server that's over there in Management Studio. And hey presto, Management Studio is then working in that context.
I do always forget that there is a run as parameter with start process. That's a very nice reminder.
So yeah, it's something that we're always battling at work, is that you're in management studio and you think, why the hell can't I connect to this server? Yeah, it's because you're not in the right domain. You haven't started with the right credentials. I've probably got 46 management studios coming along now, but here we are. We'll give it its chance just to show us that this has started as a different user. Oh, good Lord. I think it's about time I got a new laptop, isn't it? What can we close down here? Exit Snagit. Skype. Didn't know I had that still.
I think it's a pre-provisioned app for Windows 10 now. Yeah, I've never known Management Studio to be that slow at loading before. That's interesting.
I mean, it might be that I've got a million tabs open in Edge as well. It could be Regate Tools loading, and they haven't loaded for a long time.
Source control, that looks interesting.
Okay, so here we go. Username foundry/SOTN-demo. So this has started as me in the other credential. It's obviously got the wrong password for it, but we aren't going to worry about that. You can't change this under Windows authentication. So this has been started as that user. And obviously you could control the domain as well. I'm not on a domain here, so it's not something I can actually control. So that's my machine name. But there we go. That's proof that it worked, albeit a long time for a little proof. But there we go. Keep in mind that this is only as good as the secure string that you're working with. Jaap Brasser was the person that I followed along using the export CLI XML and the import again. So follow up on his blog for that sort of thing. What you can do is to take cred dot get network credential dot password, and that brings it back as an open string. Okay, so in memory, this is still an encrypted password, but right now I can access that if I want to. So this is not forever invisible, but it is only visible to my user on this computer. So for all intents and purposes, it's as secure as cut, copy, and paste from a password manager on another machine, or whatever other method you've got. But to me, it's a lot more accessible in this way because you can put it in automation. So back to the running order. That's the first two done. Here we are with the binary. There we are, number 22. So these are the popular ones: equals, not equals, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal. But we can actually do bitwise comparison. Okay, so a couple of binary jokes here. Presumably everybody recognizes this. 99 anyway. So we've got B and, bOR, bXOR, and bNOT. So 20, B and 4 actually gives us a result of 4. Now this result of 4 is because 20 gets converted into its binary value and 4 gets converted into its binary value, and the AND ensures that we only get a value in our answer where the values match. Okay, so if this and this are 1, then we get a 1 in our answer. Zeros result to zeros, 1 and 0 results to 0. So 20 bitwise and 4 results in 4. bOR 4 results in 20. Again, the decimal value is converted into binary, so it's 10100. 4 is converted to 100, and where either of these is 1, we get a 1 in the result. So there's no 1 here, so this is a 0. No 1 here, so it's a 0. Is this one or this one a 1? Yes, it is. It happens that they both are, but one of them at least is, so we get a 1 in the result. Again, zeros here, 16 bit has got a 1 in it, but for the 4 it doesn't, but that results in a 1 in our answer. And then we convert this back to decimal again. Binary XOR 4. If we run that one, we get 16. Again, the same value applies. Convert to binary and then do the computation. Now, exclusive OR is slightly more picky than the ordinary OR. Here, we're saying if either this or this is a 1, then give us a 1 as the result. With the other. So with a 1 and a 0, we get a 1, but with a 1 and a 1, we get a 0, and with a 0 and a 0, we get a 0. So here, if this is a 1, this must be a 0, or the reverse, if this is a 1, this must be a 0 in order to get a 1 in our result. Is this making sense? Stunned silence. He's either muted himself or he's just had his mind blown by.
No, I'm here. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it making sense? You were the one that asked for this, right?
Oh, absolutely. So I just didn't want to interrupt you because I just appreciate the flow. I did actually have something written down, and I want to ask about explicitly this, all of the operators, the bitwise operators.
Okay, go for it.
Do you have any sort of, like, I understand logic gates and the principle and these in particular, I understand the principles of it, but like practical examples of where you would need or where you have personally used them before, like, do you know of any on the top of your head, like
no.
where I could perhaps use them?
I've done PowerShell and gone to probably hundreds of, or gone through hundreds of students in the sessions, and I've had maybe 2 or 3 people say, oh yeah, I used to do this in computer science in my degree when we were talking about this, this, or this. Never used it since.
Okay.
I've never had someone say, oh my God, that's going to solve this problem I've got. So yeah, I don't know. I've certainly never encountered a solution.
If anybody in the chat
as a solution to a problem, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see a working example of it being used. You know,
now,
just like more of the why, you know, and the context of it being used.
So I have used in the dark ages, probably almost last century, when I was supporting SQL 2000 or 2005, before there was such a thing as sparse columns. As a people had skills, and we wanted to map the skills to the person. We could have had a column which was is able to do first aid, and we could have stored yes or no in that, and we could have had is a lifeguard, yes or no to that, or whatever features that humans can have, we could have stored as yes, no. And this table would have been 1 million columns wide and impossible really to manage. And most of it would have been empty space because not everybody is everything. And you can compress simply by putting the 1s and the 0s in and storing an integer value, an awful lot of information. And we would then just use a bit, you know, to check is 4 on or off.
Yeah.
To say, is this person a first aid, or are they a lifeguard, or are they a whatever experienced person in this skill, counseling or whatever it was. So it compressed data for me, and it worked out quite well, so long as you got through whoever was supporting the database how bit masking worked.
Yeah, there's been some interesting comments in the chat actually. Leonardo B said Active Directory permissions. He said that there's something saved as a binary string in there. He said he's going to let us know.
Okay, so yeah, perhaps you could work out what they are if someone has already worked out the pattern of it. Oh, does he? Okay, thanks for that one, Chrissy. Perhaps he would have some use cases then, or whether he's able to share what he's using it for. But there we go. So how do we convert the two back and forth? It's all very well adding up all of these values and saying it's 16. We can use the inbuilt types convert to int, and we can pass in our binary value, and then we say, actually, I want that as a decimal, please. And when we run that, we get told that's 36. And if we pass in an integer and we want it converted to a string, then we get the binary back. So convert to int and convert to string, and then whichever value you've got, comma 2. And that controls the base that you're working with. And there is a bitwise comparison operators help page. This is going to open up down here somewhere. Maybe one day. Oh my word. File permissions. All right. Okay. So read, write, and whatever X is. Logic there, isn't there? Okay, so that one failed. But anyway, if you search help for bitwise comparison operators, that's going to bring up the built-in PowerShell help for those. If it's inspired somebody to take up binary as a different way of counting, we've done our job tonight. Securing files, number 10. Here we go. So I don't know how many people are on the session at the moment, but I'm guessing there's a fair proportion of people that will have a network location where they've got an installer. There'll be an ISO or a .exe or an MSI, which is their favorite piece of software, whether it's a SQL Server installer or Visual Studio or a backup file or whatever it might be that they have some reliance on. And you kind of take for granted that it hasn't been edited by anyone. No one has tampered with it and done anything malicious, or indeed it's got moved from one place to another and has become corrupt. So we can use getFileHash to hash a file and give us an MD5 algorithm result. When we save the file, or when the file is newly minted, and then when we come back to it before we use it, we can check what the hash is again. And if the hash is the same, then we know that is a bit accurate file comparison to what it was when we left it there. If it changes in any way, then we know that someone's been tampering with it. So let's take a look at this. Here we go. We've taken the notepad.exe file. We've created a file hash of that, and we can see that we use the SHA-256 algorithm. This is the hash of that file, and this is the path. So this is the output of getFileHash. If we wanted to, I'm not sure how fast this works, but let's have a go anyway. Line 8 is going to take everything from system32 and pass it into getFileHash. And there we go. It's hashing each file as it comes in. And we could store this away in a secure location, and then we could compare against these hashes as and when we wanted to return to it. Not gonna wait for that to finish. If we do get child item windows, pass that into getFileHash, but then send that results into ISO hash, then that takes everything, except where my permissions aren't right, and puts it into ISO hash. And then we can reference this simply as an array of hash values. So we're looking in here to element number 2. We want to see what the path was. That is to the core single language XML file. Clearly, I've changed what's on that file since then. We can check what algorithm it was hashed with, default of MD5. Not entirely certain we're going to find that file in here. Things have moved on since then. if we want to, we can take our hash results and pass it into a CSV file. Now, I'm exporting as a CSV, but I'm sending it to DC hash test ISO archive, which probably doesn't exist because I don't have my D drive connected at the moment. But simply, this is preserving that information in this variable. All the hash results are going to be in a permanent place on disk that we can access. We can read that back in again, and then we can actually delve into that and say, okay, I want to check this file, please. Hash that now, and then compare it to the hash in my reference list. And then it's going to come up and it's going to tell me that it's either safe to use or that there's a problem with it, and we've got a mismatch. Either the password wasn't hashed at the time or the hash has changed, in which case we should be concerned that someone has actually perhaps opened up the ISO and they've added in an updates file. So if they're slipstreaming SQL Server installs, you can rebuild the ISO with an updates folder, and you can slipstream service packs in, so that when you build a new SQL Server, you don't have to then do a service pack on it. It gets built with service pack 2, 3, 4, whatever is available. But if they've done that and you haven't updated your ISO, then you get alerted to the fact that things have changed in the file that you're about to trust and install on your systems. So again, this is something that I haven't seen many people using. They just trust this great network library to be a set of files that are somehow secure and trustworthy. And unfortunately, it's not always the case that that is something that is 100% reliable. So that's number 10 done. Where are we going? From functions to modules. Did I open 25? Yes, I did. Here we go. What's the plan for the evening, Adam? Are we going to stop in 10 or 15 minutes for a break, or are we just running through? Do you want, how much content do you want from me? I can talk for a while.
Say, if you need a quick bathroom break, rock and roll. They're really flexible here. People obviously tune in and out as and when they like. If you need a break, yeah, that's fine. We can switch scene to be right back. That's no problem.
I'm good for the minute, but I don't want to make anyone have to sit too long. So should we run till past and then decide to take a little break?
Well, the benefit is that the users have a DVR functionality, meaning that they can pause.
Oh, they can just pause and we can keep rolling. Right,
exactly.
Okay.
So if you're good,
so we won't know when they've gone, except that all the rude comments from Rob and Jess are going to just pause for a little while.
Yep.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so let's set up a demo location, which I'm hoping I've got open already. This is one of the windows that fell foul of me removing my display link adapter 10 minutes before I went online. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever done before a session. Okay, so I've got this folder called demo module, where we're going to build a PowerShell module. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is check whether that exists, and if it does exist, we're going to clear the content out of there. So there it is, empty. Great. I want to have a module file in my temp workshop demo module path, and I want it to be called demofunctions.psm1. Okay, PSM1 is enforced on me by PowerShell convention. I make up this name and I choose where it's going to go. So that's all things that I can just make up and then tell PowerShell to do it. And then I can run, providing the file's not there, we can create the new file. There we go. And over in our Windows window, demo functions PSM1. Perfect. Been created for us just as we wanted. I'm going to create a script for 2 functions, which I'm going to put into the module. So my first script is going to be really trivial. It's going to be a function called getTheDate. I'm a good PowerShell programmer, so I've got a description and I've got an example in the comments at the top of the function. And then I'm simply formatting the date using the -f format operator, and then I simply write out that message. Okay, now this is all in a here string. That's the end of the first function, and then I'm creating a second function, which is get top 3 processes. That is simply getting or using get process, sorting by CPU, descending, and then picking the first 3 and giving me the name and the CPU. Okay, so if I set up that variable like so, I can take that script, use set content, and put it into my module. Okay, so now if we flip back to our module PSM1 file, we can see that this has actually got some size now. It's 1 kilobyte in size. It's got the text that we've just pushed into it. And if we edit with Notepad++, or a text editor of your choice, we can see that we've got getTheDate and we've got get top 3 processes in here, just as 2 functions like we would have in a PS1 file, really. In order to create a module, we need a GUID. PowerShell's got a great way of getting up a unique number for us. We just use new GUID. So we run line 66 and we capture a random value into a variable. Oh, did I run that or did I just run? I just ran the highlighted bit. Sorry. Wasted a GUID there. Damn it. We're going to run out eventually, aren't we? What we should have done was had a look at script number 1, splatting, because that's what we're doing right here. Rather than having all of these variables shooting across our screen to the right-hand side and us having to scroll right 3, 4, or 5 screens, we've got a hash table, which is a key name and a value. The key names represent parameters that new module manifest will receive. And then we're simply setting the value of them so that when we run new module manifest and we use an @ symbol when we splat, it's a lot easier to read, it's a lot easier to maintain the code and see what values are being set up. So the path to our module manifest is a PSD1 file. Again, we can choose the name that we want, we can choose the path that we want. Logic says that we're going to put it in the same folder as our PSM1 because they're to do with the same thing. Obviously, I'm going to end up with your name here and so on and so forth. Now, if we open that PSD1, sorry, I shouldn't have clicked away from it. We're going to go into Notepad++ again. We've set 4 or 5 things, but PowerShell has actually filled in a massive amount of information for us that isn't necessary, but it's a great framework for when we need to use it. So if we want to set up a license or add release notes or control which commandlets are being exported when someone loads our module, excuse me, I've got hiccups, then this is all here. But our GUID has been used to set this up. It's got the author's name set up here. It's got our copyright against it, so on and so forth. Our description has been set for us because we passed in those parameters. If we want to use different resolution or different screens here. If we wanted to use new module manifest to control other values, then we can simply specify them in here. If I wanted to specify company name, then I could just add in another value in here in line 74, company name equals whatever company I was working for. And then that would be put in there. Until then, PowerShell adds in placeholder values. So there we go. We've created our module. All we now need to do is to use import module, and we use the fully qualified name parameter to point to that PSD1 file. And if we use the verbose switch, we'll actually see everything loading. And we get here, get the date, get top 3 processes have been imported into my current session. So I can do get the date, it auto completes, and I get the date given back to me in the format that I asked for. If I do get top, I use tab complete and press enter, I can see that the top 3 CPU consuming processes are SQL Server, my 2 SQL Server instances, and surprise, surprise, Zoom is chewing up a bit of processor as well. So that's it. If we do get module, we can see that we've got demo module here, version 1, and we can see the exported commands are get the date and get top 3 processes. Now, this is stage 1 in moving from functions to modules. Okay, so this is just referencing this PSD1. This isn't a shared resource in any way. We're not looking at taking this from or pushing this into a repository where people can access it and it's version controlled and so on and so forth. But this is the first step, putting your functions that you've got into a single module so that they all get loaded together. You don't need to run through and load a series of .ps1 files in order to get all of your code available to you in your session. I'm very aware that I haven't had any questions. Does anybody have any questions?
None from me. I felt like that was a really good sort of light introduction to, yeah, getting away from dozens of function files and sourcing them and just throwing them into a module.
The process that you use to source them could be put into your module, so that actually when you load the module, it does a sourcing of all your PS1s for you. There are ways and means around this. Okay, so there's a number of ways of reaching the same conclusion. But for 2 trivial functions like get the date and get top 3 processes, the quickest way to put them in is just into the PSM1. If they were 5,000 lines of code each, then I might think about actually breaking them out into their own PS1s and then have the PSM1 reference those.
Gotcha.
So that when it gets loaded, it goes off and loads all the PS1s for me, just to make it a little bit more manageable in the way that it works.
See, that on its own is quite a hot topic on how to manage modules.
Yeah, it's a little bit like rolling a grenade underneath a door and walking away, isn't it? You can spark an argument very quickly. But what do you think about this? Yeah. Personally, I like to have one PS1 file, which creates one function, and I name it the same as that function.
I agree.
So that whenever I've got problems with that function, I need to go and find it, I just search for that file name, and then I'm into the code that creates the function that I've got an issue with.
Absolutely.
Having it buried in a 10,000 line PSM1 file, not so accessible. But that's my convention. I've not hit a scenario where that doesn't work yet. So that's the way that I'm finding it. It's best for me. If we want to find where demo module came from, we can simply look at the path value, and then there we go. We can head straight there and edit that if we want to. So metrics is get top 3 processes. Then I'm setting log file to join path, demo location, and activity log.txt. I don't know quite why that's taking so long. Probably my prompt going off to GitHub and checking whether I'm up to date or not. Put that there. It may be my integrated shell has just given up on me and we're going to end up rebooting.
That is a common theme with the integrated shell. I am very interested by that faint text that you get on every line that you hover. You see where it says Father Jack a year ago.
Is that the one you mean?
No, in the body of the editor, not the shell, but line 95.
Oh, here.
Yeah, what's that?
So that is my source code or source control telling me that I edited this a year ago. Rob, help me out. Is that Git Lens that's doing that for me, or something in there? It's a PowerShell extension that I've got running.
I am super interested in getting that. Git Lens, you say?
I think it might be Git Lens. If Git Lens is loaded, yeah, I think it's this chappy.
Yeah, that was off topic. Sorry.
No worries. It's if you've asked it, then somebody else is probably thinking about it as well.
True.
Right. Let's set these two up again. Bam, like that. So we set that up, and then I pass the message out to my log file. And I think actually in my log file, activity log.txt has got recorded in it current date and the information around which processes were using most CPU. Found it slow my session down, but I haven't used it since they addressed performance issues. It is Git Lens, is it? Yeah, okay. I don't get it at work, so I'm assuming it's an extension that I'm allowed to use here and I'm not allowed to use in the office. Okay, so that is a few seconds to 8:30. So that means we've been going just about an hour. Should we, everybody, well, no, you said it doesn't matter for the people that are listening how long we take as a break. They can just
rock and roll. Yeah, absolutely.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to take 5 minutes. I made a second error of the evening. Who am I kidding? Another error this evening. I made myself a coffee and an orange squash, but I failed to add the cold water into the orange squash. So I've been sat here looking at just the orange squash in the bottom of a glass for an hour, which is quite tempting to drink. But
you've got a cup of orange squash with coffee together.
No.
Not. I
well,
heard
side
that
by
wrong.
side in two different vessels,
okay.
right? They're not actually mixed together. No.
I'm glad I heard that wrong.
I have a mug of coffee, quite cool now, and I have a glass of orange squash, but without the dilution of water. So it's just the raw squash concentrate at the bottom.
Gotcha. So did you want to take 5? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
I'm going to throw some water in that. So yeah, if we can take a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
Perhaps the rabble that are watching can come up with some questions about what we've seen so far, or can you rethrow the link?
I can.
To the voting, if they want to bubble up anything into this sort of region by voting for it, then let's go for it. Otherwise, we're going to come back with the use of Ampersand in push, and then we're going to take a quick look at SysInternals. It's not a lot about SysInternals, to be honest.
Okay.
And then there we go. Splatting's come up. It did get 6 votes, so well done, the Splatting crowd. We'll go through the benefits and how it can make your life easier. This one's quite interesting. I might throw that one in. I might take session delivery presenter priority and push that one into the list. But if anybody wants to pick anything else out of the 30 odd that we have here, then that can control our second hour.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me switch things to be right back then, and then we'll, I don't know, be 5 minutes or something like that then, yeah.
Yeah, I've got to just run to the nearest tap and pour some cold water into this glass.
Okay. Righto, we are back. So we've added a couple more to the list, haven't we?
Yeah, you caught me cooking the books. Yeah, I'm putting in one that I didn't actually register the votes on. Oh, it got 4 votes. Ampersand got 4 votes, but they go together because one is Ampersand in PowerShell that isn't PWSH. I don't know what the differentiation between those two is, and
just
one is
Windows, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It works slightly differently, which probably means that we're going to have a bit of a car crash in me working between 2 different sessions.
No, that's right. I forgot. There is something new about double Ampersand in core. I can't remember what exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I'm looking forward to that. That'd be good. Yeah.
Let's. As it happens, that's the next one. Unless anybody has voted up anything differently that I'm not aware of.
No, I'm just hitting refresh.
So, Ampersand, the call operator. Script block equals this in quotes. Okay, so we're going to run that. When we ask for script block back, we just get the string. Okay, if I ampersand the script block, it actually runs my script. Now, Spooler isn't a service on my computer, so it's not having it. It results in an error. If I set it to 1+1 and then I invoke that as a script block. Oh, my apologies. Where have I? Right, okay, so it needs to be a script block for Ampersand to run it. We've defined it as a string. Okay, so that's where we're falling over. If we set this up with a proper script block, and then we invoke the script block, it does get the spooler for me. Okay, so we can't set up a variable as a string and then invoke it with the ampersand. If it's just a string, we can use invoke expression, and that will work. So if we set it as a string, we use invoke expression, and it takes whatever is in this variable as a PowerShell expression, as a valid expression, and runs it. If we want to use the ampersand to call our script block, then we have to set it up inside parentheses as a proper script block. Now, if we take our script block of a string value and we set this as the content in a PS1 file, and if we want to check that, we can go to c:\temp/script block PS1. We've got 1+1 in there. Okay, so my string value has been placed into my PS1 file. I can then use the ampersand to run that file. So ampersand will work on a PS1 file if it's just a string. It doesn't need to be a script block. But when it's just a string in a variable, it's not going to fly with ampersand. We need to use invoke expression. Now, if we head over to gonna have to work out which one's core. There we go. And then we need 18A. Oh, come on. There we go. I mentioned my getting stuck on the edge of a screen, didn't I? What was it happening? Get process where the name is PowerShell ampersand. We can see that we've got PowerShell running. if we start a job, and then receive from job 1, it's been ages since I've looked at this one. I'm going to have to remind myself what we were trying to prove in this. Ampersand in here is actually run as a job. When it's a trailing character, we're actually setting up get process as a PowerShell process as a new job. So what we've actually got from the 3 commands that we've run is 5 executing PowerShell jobs. We've created one here. We've started one here. We looked at what's in job 1 here. So if you see ampersand at the end of a core command, it's actually starting a job. Okay, so it's the same as start job. For me, that's a big call out not to use it because of this confusion. Depending on what version you're in, this may or may not do what you're expecting it to do. So if you can use invoke expression to do exactly what you want to here, there's no good reason to use ampersand to do the same thing, just in case you work cross versions.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I came across this because I had to look it up. I came across a customer that was using this, and what? And it didn't do what I wanted to do when I was running it. And then it suddenly struck me that they were running on core, and it actually has a completely different meaning in core. So there we go. That's it. That's those 2 done. Everybody who voted for ampersand, the call operator, and the core version of ampersand.
But I do think there's something else with the ampersand, like a double ampersand does something, I think, in core now, like a similar to how it works in bash.
Right, okay, so in 7,
yeah.
You've got the concatenation and the OR and the XOR and is null operators. I don't think I've put that into one of these yet.
I only mention it because it's an ampersand.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
that was all.
I
think it executes the one to the right if the one to the left succeeded. I think that's the premise of it, because that's how it works in bash, at least.
Yeah, it's certainly moving towards the bash style of syntax and functionality. I haven't actually got a Medley file about the new functions. I can't remember where I wrote that content. Was it in a blog somewhere? Oh, of course, that's all gone, isn't it?
I wouldn't worry.
I was trying to look up my blog when I was at Microsoft, and all the content's moved. Yeah, no, it's going to take some searching to see if that was even preserved anywhere. Yeah, I know the things that you're talking about, and yeah, they ought to be in here. They deserve to be something that's called out as noteworthy.
But that's just core, right? Not Windows, just in case anybody's curious who's listening. I'm pretty sure 90%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's correct. So let's close down 18 and 18. Back to running order. We've done those 2 SysInternals. There we go, right, number 4. Way up to the top. requires run as administrator. Well done, Jonathan. You're setting yourself up for success. Run as. Do people use hash requires? Ought to be. Okay, if you're working in an environment that has multiple versions of PowerShell and you start writing your script with all the goodness of version 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, and you've got some machines that are still on version 2 or whatever, you can set in here, you can say requires, and I believe it's version and the Vesrion. You can simply say 5, and then this script will not run. If this is a PS1 and someone tries to run the whole PS1, if they're running it in a session that is not version 5 or higher, nothing in this script will run. It'll say this script requires version 5. You don't have that, go and upgrade. So it's a very useful thing to, rather than have the first 20 or 30 lines of code run because that's all compatible with the old versions, and then you hit a function that doesn't work and you then get errors, you're going to end up with half of your estate changed with half of the changes, and then the rest of it just in some sort of unknown state. So using requires, hash requires at the beginning, means that nothing in this script is going to run if that requirement isn't met. So you're making yourself all fail or all succeed, none of this halfway mess that you'd end up having to clear up. So requires run as administrator. If this script is run as a non-administrator account, we would get an error that says this script requires administrator, start a new session, wish you luck. So get child item on ctools, SysInternals. So SysInternals is a set of tools, executables, and I think there's some MSI in there as well, written by Microsoft engineers, mostly Mark Razinovich, nearly forgot his name, which are released as unsupported tools. They're licensed software, so they're owned by Microsoft, but they're not supported by Microsoft in any way. And you can go and download them off the internet, and some of them are incredibly useful, and some of them are way beyond my league. There's lots of networking stuff and storage stuff and deep level operating system analysis, memory analysis that is just beyond my ability. But if we look at what's in SysInternals, we can see all of the names of the applications going through here. BG info, quite a few people will use that. That's background information. It sets a background image on your desktop, which is computer information. You can ask it for the IP address, the last system started date, your IP addresses, your RAM, your CPU settings, so on and so forth. And it's just sat there on your desktop. So when you log into a server, you can instantly tell your machine name and so on and so forth. Zoom it. Anybody who's a speaker giving technical sessions needs to learn how to use Zoom it and Zoom it 64. This is a way of zooming in and focusing in on the screen that you're presenting. Rootkit revealer, it tells you whether you've got a rootkit on your current computer or not. Process Explorer, that's possibly the most used one that I ever use. And if we want to run that, we can call it with start process. And then somewhere on my computer, let's close the modules folder down. There we go. This is Process Explorer. Okay, so this is a deep analysis of all the processes running on this computer right now. And if we wanted to, we can sort by CPU, we can hover over these things, we can see sub-processes and threads that are involved. And we get a trace up here, which is showing all of our memory commitment and CPU usage, and so on and so forth. And we can actually click into this to see more information around your storage throughput and CPU usage and so on and so forth. I use it mostly with this little drop arrow here. If you take this and you place it on a window, it highlights the executable that was running. So I can drop that target on Internet Explorer and then press delete and kill Internet Explorer because it's chewing up too much memory. For example, if we had a thing against Internet Explorer. plist, or sorry, PS list. There we go. That was useful, wasn't it? We run the executable with start process. The window opens, it does its stuff, and it then closes. We've lost that process. We didn't capture the output. So let's run that into a variable. PS list opens, captures the data. Then we ask for what's in list, and oh, nothing. Okay, well, perhaps start process has got a pass-through parameter. Let's try that. There it is. What do we get? We get the last one. Not so good. Okay, let's try the famous ampersand. Now we don't see the PS list window. We didn't get that flicker past us. But when we look at PS $list now, it has actually captured everything from pslist.exe. So if we use the invoke operator on an executable that is a command line command, so if we run pslist, we're not running inside our current session. We're opening up a separate thread where pslist.exe is running, and then it's closed down. We can actually use invoke in order to capture that content. So perhaps, I mean, the fact that it's a SysInternals tool is arbitrary, I guess. If you want to capture the content of an external process, perhaps using the ampersand operator is a way of doing it, because you can't capture it by setting a variable to be the result of that window. Even using pass-through, you don't get all of the content that is actually streamed by an external command. We've seen that there's a lot of items in SysInternals. If we actually do a count of the executables in there, we've got 133 tools in this folder. Okay, so these are downloaded and just sitting on my system ready to be run. They're not installed. They're mostly executables that run in a standalone mode. If we look at one item, autoruns.exe, we get a length and we get the name. Okay, and as far as I can glean from anybody in Microsoft, this is what makes them unique. This last write time is kind of arbitrary. That can go up and down and backwards or forwards. If the length is different on the version you have from the version that is online, then it's better to take the online version. Now, they are all available in live.sysinternals.com/tools. So we can set up a couple of variables. So we're going to set a $IE to be Internet Explorer, and we're going to set up $arg to be that location. And if we start process, I'm assuming somewhere in a minute Internet Explorer is going to burst into life. I might be disappointed. I've not tried this with Edge.
I am hugely interested by that arg parameter with the double backslash looking like a UNC path. But that's still a HTTP address, right? Maybe?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, here we go. It is starting. Internet Explorer is creaking into life.
Hey, look, File Explorer opened.
Down here. Ask me later. I don't know which one's important. Oh, that's different. How do we get that? Let's put that away. There we go.
That's what I find really interesting.
live.sysinternals.com/tools. Here we are looking at the repository. So Mark Rasinovich has shared this tools folder, and we can browse this for any of the tools that we want to download, or indeed we can take a comparison of the versions here and the versions on our local machine, and then we can update the ones that we want to. Now I've actually over on GitHub, there is this a gist or a gist? Whatever it is, I've got one which is called update SysInternals. And when we run that, I get annoyed because the pop-up for this always pops under. Where do you want to save them? So we need to go to C, Tools, SysInternals. It goes off to live.sysinternals. And then it will go through, compare my local version to the online version. Now, as I said, I did this a couple of months ago and obviously updated this for that demonstration. So we've seen one change go through. And there we go. So we actually got Process Explorer 64 had an update. So I've got a new version of that just downloaded. The code for this is online if you want to take it. If you don't want to do the, is this the same as that? Update it for me.
Absolutely.
Process.
Gimme.
Okay, so you'll get that pop up. You just need to choose an empty folder where you're going to save it. And then the first time you run it, it's going to say, I found 133 things for you, and copy everything down. It's actually going to be more than that. We've got 157 because there are a few DLLs and a few compiled helps in there as well. But I would encourage you to go and explore. Some of them, I get the feeling, can do some things quite funky to your machine. So access with caution. Things like clock res, this is going to diddle about with the clock speed of your CPU. So, like I say, buyer beware, downloader beware. There are things like disk to VHD. This actually creates, takes a disk and converts it into a virtual hard drive. You get a compiled help for that, and I think if you double click it, you can actually still open these as a help file, although that doesn't look too good right now.
I had no idea that you could access the repository via UNC path, and Nigel said in the chat it's accessed via WebDAV. I don't know too much about WebDAV, but I currently have a function in my profile to update SysInternals, and it does it the long way around of grabbing it via some web address and decompressing the zip and doing it that way around. But this is awesome.
Well, there we go. It's all there for you. I don't know what half of these do. This just changes hexamal to desiccated numbers, or whichever way around you want it to do. Junction is a bit like mount points, I think, in terms of giving you more drives than there are letters in the alphabet. Not my fault. This is a different way of bringing down different computers, so you can simulate blue screens of death. Okay, again, there be dragons here, so don't just go and double click every executable and expect to have a good evening.
I thought you just did, and I was worried that you were about to blue screen your machine.
No. Proc dump, we've seen that one.
CPS exec is something I use every day. I have to sometimes pretend to be system.
Right. Okay. RAM map, that literally gives you a plot of your memory. I don't know what to do when I've got that. I just look at it and go, cool, that's cool, and then move on. SDelete is a secure delete, so it actually shreds the bits where a file was. So if you really want to do something more than just deleting the first character of a file name and fooling Windows that that's spare space that it can use, SDelete and SDelete 64 do that, as far as I remember. And like I say, zoom it. I don't know if I've got it running or not. I would have thought I should have, but let's run it anyway. This lets you zoom in and out on your screen. There it is. That's the little chappy there. If you click that and choose options, you can see what you do. So live zoom, control and 4. If I press control and 4 now, nothing happens. Does it not work when you're zoomed in? Ooh.
Hotkeys already used.
Control 4. There we go. So live zoom means that I'm actually in interactive mode. So although I'm zoomed in, I can actually click stuff and select stuff, and we get the interactive. If I press Control-4 again, I zoom back out. Control and 1, if I remember rightly, zooms you in and pauses the screen so you can then draw around stuff and that sort of thing. If you do a lot of presenting, or you're interested in doing a lot of presenting and you want to bring content into focus for people, then practice with Zoom it. Hopefully it won't have a reaction to Zoom like I've got now. There was the properties coming up. Control-1. Is it not Control-1? Help me out in the chat, everybody. Zoom. Control and equals. Control and equals. There we go. Zoomed in. So it's moving with my mouse now, but if I click with my mouse, it pauses, and this is now just like an image. So if I press Control and drag with my mouse, I can square things. If I press R and Control, I can get red. I think it goes green. If I don't press Control, then I can get squarely lines. If I press Shift, I get an arrow or a straight line, and so on and so forth. So you can highlight things as you want to. Press Control and equals again to go back to normal view. So a pretty useful app to have around. Why do you fail at Zoom it, Chrissy? It's a gist, is it, Rob? Okay, thank you for that. Is it GitHub then? So that's SysInternals. Go and explore on a machine that you don't have too much to lose on, or just have a really good backup before you go and play. Any questions there, Adam, or any from the team?
You're all good. No, that was good.
Oh, good. We're down to 7 now. There's obviously only the hardcore people that are left for the second hour. Splatting. This is number 1 for a reason, right? People don't do this enough, and they really need to. Backup SQL database. And it gets shouted at for not using the DBA tools version, but you know, I've got to talk to people that don't use DBA tools. There's a parameter called backup set name, which takes a text. There's a media description, which takes a big description text, and then there's a server instance that we need, and then there's a database we want to back up, and then the backup file and its path, and then whether we want a log backup or a database backup, and then we want to turn on compression, and then we want, you know, how far wide have we gone here? All of this is just a mystery to anyone scrolling down the left-hand side. So splatting. This is exactly the same information as I scrolled through, but far more accessible, far more easy to reach. I want to change the backup action. I need to change this to log. It's done. I haven't had to scroll through here and find data. Oh, hang on, there's that database. I can change that to log, and that'll fix what I want. No, that's the wrong thing. It's just because I'm in the wrong place and in the wrong format. Yeah, I know they're poor people, aren't they, Chrissy? But you know, it's why we evangelize DBA tools, isn't it? It's to help those people. Splatting. Set up a variable, $, normal variable. It needs to be a hash table, so it's at curly brace, and then the curly brace to close it. If the item that we want to splat as a parameter is a switch, then we use $true to turn it on. If the parameter that we are providing needs a string, then we wrap it as a string, so on and so forth. If it was an integer value, if we were passing in a megabyte value or a gigabyte value, then we pass that in as we want to. When we actually use it, we use backup SQL database at params. This is not a mistake, it's not a typo, it's the way that splatting works. You splat with an at. And this is going to run. If we just run this line 27, having set up the whole splat variable from 16 to 26, this is going to run quite happily, providing all of the parameters that we've specified with the values that we've specified. If you don't want to see the output of backup SQL database, don't use pass-through. It'll just do the backup and then tell you it's done. Backup SQL database takes multiple values for the file. So you can parallelize your backup out to multiple .back files. If that's the case, we set up backup file with 2 string variables, comma separated. They can be to the same path, they can be to different paths if you want to confuse the person that's doing the restore. But just as many as you need with the commas. Obviously, if you're doing a restore, you're going to have to specify those with commas as well. So the complexity here, which brings a speed benefit, adds complexity at the other end when you need to do a restore. I'm not going to do the backup, so doing the restore and everything else. If we want to specify a differential backup, then we simply say incremental equals true. That's the restores. I wouldn't guarantee that database still exists, so I'm not going to go through this and show everybody a bundle of red errors. We've seen enough of those.
So it's pretty
tonight.
much what you said before, right? Like it's the drop in the penny for splatting for me a long time ago was that when I realized it was just a hash table. It was just a key value pair, and if you prefix the variable name with the @ symbol.
Yeah, this is the parameter name. This is the value you want provided. So this is the pair that you would see.
It's just so pretty.
Way back up here again. Backup set name, database full backup, backup set name, whatever you want it to be. It's just in here. You need an equals rather than having them one following the other in the parameter. Very simple to use. I think it's very simple to pick up. And
I think something good, oh no, you've done it exactly there, initialize with true, and even though that initialize may just be a Boolean parameter, you also need to specify true if it is also just a switch parameter.
Yeah, it is a switch.
Gotcha.
And if you leave it out, it would be false. So we need, if we want to turn it on, if we want to initialize that .back file to wipe out any content that's in there, then we need to specify it. The one thing is over here, you would specify it here just by itself.
Correct. Awesome.
But when you're splatting, you actually say equals true. You don't just have an empty key. You have to say the key with a value of true in it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that's splatting. 9, formatting. Got some good votes. Quite like this one. Get date. It's good. 19th of August 2020, 21:11:56. Good grief, it's quarter past 9. Is it really?
Aye, yeah.
Blimey, going on forever. We can use format and use a string, and we get year, date. That's unreadable, isn't it? We can get all the properties of the variable, of the date type, and then we could format it like that, and we can go through and we can say, okay, var1 equals get date, and then we can push that into the middle. But this is ugly, right? This value in here, it is 819, yeah, unreadable. If we use -f as the formatting operator, we can actually take variable 1.day of the week, and it gets put into here where our indicator of 0 is. So this 0 indicates the first value to the right of my f. So whatever is here gets injected in between here in this identifier. So this whole string gets made. These 3 components create a string which is then passed to write output. How can we use it? Interesting. Why did that come out with?
I think you got to add a value onto that if you're appending to the array, right? So the plus and the equal operator is like adding to an array. So if you add a value after that, I think. But if you just wanted to increment, then you do like you've done on 28 plus. Yeah, something like that.
I think that's what we wanted. So log plus equals, so we're appending into this $log variable a timestamp with whatever my first value is, $var1, whatever my second value is, var2, and whatever my third value is, var3. We run that one, and then we pass this out. We can see timestamp of that name empty retry 1. And if we were to run a series of these, we can see that the time is gradually incrementing 32, 34, 36, step 1, 2, 3, 4, retry 2, 3, and 4. So this is very easily putting something into a log output. We could be writing this to a file or wherever it is with a timestamp value, but we can actually see the iteration that we were through a log or through a routine, through a for each loop, so on and so forth. But -F, learn to use this. It's such an easy way of injecting values into a string and keeping this string quite concise and quite simple to edit and manage. And if you wanted to, you could use these multiple times. So these don't have to be unique in here. You could use 0 or 1 or 2 multiple times in this string if you wanted to make up a message and reuse one of these more times. What time are we finishing, Adam? We're going to 9:30?
Whenever you're done. Yeah, no, that's no problem. But I just wanted to
we've
say...
got 3 new people now. We've gone from 7 up to 10. This is amazing.
That's a really good topic that you brought up, because the alternative, right, is sub-expressions. And it's exactly as you say, because otherwise you can find yourself having a really long string with a bunch of variables intertwined into the long string, and sometimes
and then you end up doing the dollar thing, dollar
to access the properties of an object,
dot something, blah, and and then you start doing quoting and double quoting and single quoting, and it can become absolutely torturous.
So the format
operator
in here is king.
You're tabbing quite simply here, and and if I want to change this, I want to make a change, I could just simply say, Jonathan, you wouldn't believe how many times I do that a day. And then in here we can do 3 says, and then take that, and then simply Jonathan has been appended here, because I've said the one thing that kind of gives me a topic to talk about. This is 3, but it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4th in here. So it's indexing from a zero based array. But if you understand that this is the first one and 0 is the first one here, then you won't go wrong. So there we go. We are within the last 10 minutes of the evening. I'll let you close down by 1/2 past. Getting away from ping. Got a couple of votes, so let's, what's that, 29? Down here somewhere. Everybody knows ping. Is the server online? Well, let's ping it. Ping is a shortcut to ping.exe, which is an external command. So this runs outside your PowerShell session, and you simply see a stream of string content coming back at you. This content is not, it looks formatted, but it's not. You can't parse this very easily. You can't do an awful lot with it. So you need to get away from running ping. Okay, in system32 ping.exe, there are internal commands that will do the same thing. They do it better, and they fit inside the PowerShell pipeline. You can send server names to them. You can get results from them to go down the pipeline to take actions. So it's much easier and much better to be working with them. So here we can do a test connection to the BBC website, and we can simply ask for the computer name and whether the ping succeeded or not. It's getting very windy down this part of the world. I'm guessing that these packets are going all over the internet. There we go. So ubt.co.uk, true. There we go. The ping got there. It got to the BBC. If you wanted to actually see which way it went, we can use test net connection with the trace route parameter, and then actually choose to expand the trace route results. And here we go. We can see all the IP addresses that our packet went through on the way out and on the way back, if that was important to us. So test connection. This is, I guess, the truest parallel to ping. We give it the location we want to ping. We say, actually just send one packet and do it quietly for us. And this will simply return true or false very quickly as to whether that packet got out and back successfully. So if you want to test that something's online, that's your quickest route to then doing something with the far end computer if you were working with it. One of the biggest benefits I found when I was supporting a system that had SQL Server replication in place, and we had one central data center and a number of satellite offices that needed a copy of the data. I was working from home, so I was in a third location. If I pinged the data center, that was my connection to the data center. If I pinged one of the remote sessions, say in New York or wherever, that was my connection to that. But with test connection, you can actually say, go from my data center to my remote location. So you're getting the link that you're not on and its performance, which was a game changer, because that told me that my link to Rio de Janeiro was very slow. And that was why data replication was behind on the SQL Server database in that location. I didn't need to RDP into the data center or to the remote location. I did that just from my computer by specifying a source and the computer name that I wanted to ping.
That's a great tip. Thanks for that. I had no idea there was a source parameter.
There we go. IP config. This gives you your local network adapter information. There's a whole stream of it. A lot of it doesn't mean anything to me. IP6 addresses are very difficult to memorize. Again, it's an external command. We want to stop using it because it's just text that we get given back. This is not in any way usable in a PowerShell pipeline. GetNet IP configuration, we can then filter out the pieces of information we want. So I want to see anything that is an alias property. So star alias is going to match any aliases, and then IPv4 address. And there we go. I've got the interface alias, and I've got the IP4 address for each of those. Far more, to me, far more consumable, far more useful for me to work out what's going on. If I choose IP address and then interface alias, I get all of the v6 and v4 addresses if that's important to me. NS lookup is another one that's an external command that has been used forever since computers were a thing. The alternate for PowerShell people, resolve DNS name. So again, you can work through filtering the results of this to be the true bits that you want, pass them on the pipeline to restart computer or apply service packs or whatever you're trying to do to the computers at the far end once you've got the information that you need. If you want to softly move yourself away from ping, if I type ping right now, I ought to ping something, didn't I? Otherwise I'll just get help. Ping localhost. I get the standard ping results, okay? If I set myself an alias called ping, and I actually set that to refer to testnet connection, what? Oh, we don't want to end on an error.
I think you have to specify what you want the name of the alias to resolve to. That's it, yeah, as you say. You've done it.
If I type ping now, 127.0.0.1, I actually get the testnet connection results. Okay, so when I type ping, the alias is ranked above the external command in the hierarchy of where PowerShell goes to run things. So it will actually say, okay, your local alias for ping goes to testnet connection. I'm going to pass 127.0.0.1 to test connection and give you the results for that. So we're weaning ourselves off using ping. Okay, we're typing ping still, but at least we are reminded here when we see the results that we got ping succeeded, ping reply details, 0, so on and so forth. If I create a function called getProcess, this is just a little aside on variable process function names and aliases. I've defined a local function in my local session called getProcess, and I've told it to return getDate. So now when I run getProcess, I actually get the date instead of seeing the processes that are running on my computer. I need to run get command on getProcess with the all parameter. And I can see that I've got a local function called getProcess, and there's a commandlet called getProcess. And this is the original one because it's in the Microsoft PowerShell management location. Okay, so in order to run getProcess, the original, I would need to run did that run? Oof, no, it didn't. Okay, not going to fiddle with that, but we would need to get into there to do it. So the hierarchy is an alias is at the top. So if we run a command, PowerShell looks for an alias that matches that name first. Then it will search for a function that we've defined in our current session, and then it will look for a commandlet. So this is the way when we create an alias called ping, that it outranks the built-in commandlet. The external commandlet would actually appear down here as an external command, such as ping.exe. This would be getProcess. This would be get, what did I call it? The date, wasn't it? That was the one that I created earlier on. And then that would be GCI, or if I called one ping, then that would be running there. And that translates to test connection. Does that kind of make sense to people? I certainly hope so. Lots of there are some familiar faces in the comments in the chat, aren't there? It's not everybody that's chatting, but there we go. How's that, Adam? We're 2 minutes before 9:30.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Have you? I think you've pretty much covered it all, haven't you? A lot of the stuff that people were interested in.
Like I say, there's 31 in here. We could.
Yeah, maybe not tonight for 31. Yeah, no, that was fantastic. That was really good.
There we go. You reference it with a colon.
Oh, I see. To access the original commandlet if you had aliased it. Gotcha.
Yeah. All of this is on my GitHub. All of the other ones, if anyone's interested in looking and poking around, if you've spotted any errors that I've carried out, then send me a pull request and make some changes. Father Jack.
Yeah.
So it is github.com/Father Jack. Oh, how do we spell it?
Perfect.
Oh, backslash. Is that what it is? Okay. It's I forgot where I put it now. Is it 29? Getting away from ping. Hey, there we go. Thank you, Leonardo BE. That's how you would get it. If you've rather stupidly, like I did, created a local function which overwrites or reuses the name of a system function, then get command, find this path, and then it's slash, because I mean that makes total sense when you think about it, right? Because this is a location, and then hierarchically this is inside that location, like a folder in a file in a folder. Anyway, I'll let you close the meeting if that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was really good, Jonathan. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. There's definitely a lot of content in there, such a varied amount, that everyone will benefit from. What I'll do on the recording is make chapters in the video, so that people can easily jump to the sections.
Nice indexing it. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, definitely, because obviously it was over a span of time, and there were so many topics covered. I think that'd be really helpful. So yeah, no, thank you so much.
If
for
you
that.
want
Thank
to
you
send out the voting and mask out the ones that we've had tonight, and pick some other ones, force them to use the ones that haven't been looked at, then we can have an adventure in the Medley again. And like I say, in 6 months' time, I'll have had some other things, and there'll be possibly 35 or 40 in here. It's a changing feast that we can keep coming back to.
Brilliant. Well, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Obviously, special thanks to Jonathan. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, in the meetup group for PowerShell Southampton. There's actually no event scheduled next, so you'll see on the screen now that it's the next scheduled event is how to do Rum and PowerShell by Jack Sparrow. That's just nonsense, really. I need just a call out for speakers. Anybody who's interested in speaking, I can set you up, obviously in a remote fashion like we have. Reach out. I'm very interested to get more content out there. More stuff like today would be fantastic. So yeah, thanks to everyone.